Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're going on a deep dive into, I guess you could say, a sequel.
Oh, a sequel.
Well, a story you might think you already know, at least in part. We're looking at Banco, Henri Charrière's sequel to his infamous Papillon.
Oh, Banco.
Now, you're probably familiar with the original Papillon story, a daring escape from Devil's Island. But what about what happens after freedom is achieved?
Right.
Banco explores exactly that.
Yeah.
It digs into the man Papillon becomes and the life he builds.
You're right. Banco isn't your typical, escape thriller.
Yeah.
Instead of this relentless pursuit, they finally escape, they're home free. But no, Papillon is met with open arms in Venezuela.
Really?
This totally unexpected twist sets the stage for a tale that's less about physical freedom and more about internal struggles,
Huh.
second chances,
Yeah.
and the weight of the past.
So the book throws us right into the action. I mean, Papillon just, steps off the boat, a free man at last.
Right.
And instead of hostility, he's met with this incredible wave of generosity from the Venezuelans.
Right.
It's almost like they were expecting him,
Right.
ready to shield him from, any lingering French authorities.
It's a striking contrast to the brutality he endured on Devil's Island, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, Charrière himself is taken aback by this kindness.
Yeah.
He even notes that this welcoming spirit, it couldn't have come from Europeans,
Oh, interesting.
suggesting it's rooted in the indigenous culture of Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
He writes that generosity could not have come from Europeans, so the Venezuelans must have got it from the Indians,
Wow.
you know. And this encounter really sets a precedent for Papillon's experiences throughout the book.
Hmm.
Like, Venezuela itself is offering him a clean slate.
It's incredible. And this isn't just, a one-time thing. It's not just one friendly face. He's welcomed into homes. People offer to help him.
Mm.
And he even encounters other ex-convicts who have, seamlessly integrated into society,
Right.
forgetting their criminal pasts.
Yeah.
It really does paint a picture of Venezuela as a place of true second chances.
Exactly. There's this sense that in Venezuela, your past doesn't define you. You're judged on your present character, not your past transgressions. Even a Dr. Papillon meets, Dr. Bougrat, observes that none of the convicts he's encountered have reoffended.
Wow.
They've built families, businesses, and truly embraced this new life. So the question becomes, can Papillon, with his history of daring escapes and risky schemes, can he truly embrace this peaceful path?
That's the big question, isn't it? Because, well, he yearns for a stable life with Maria,
Right.
this woman he falls in love with.
Right.
There's this undeniable pullback to the world of adventure and risk.
It's a classic internal conflict, wouldn't you say? On one hand, you have the desire for peace, love, stability.
Right.
But on the other hand, there's the thrill of the unknown, the rush of adrenaline that comes with danger. Papillon himself acknowledges this, saying, adventure. A man needs adventure to feel alive, alive all through. He's torn between these two opposing forces, and it plays out in his interactions with the people he meets.
I thought it was really interesting how the book contrasts these two paths for him. You have Big Charlotte living this quiet life as a farmer, content and at peace.
Right.
And then you have Jojo, the aging dice hustler, full of energy, but clinging to a world of risk and uncertainty.
Yeah. They almost act as two sides of the same coin, don't they?
Totally.
Big Charlotte embodies that stability Papillon craves. While Jojo represents the allure of the life, well, he's trying to leave behind.
Yeah.
But Jojo, despite his charm and his catchphrase, behave properly, God Almighty, behave properly, he ends up serving as a cautionary tale.
It's funny because there's this constant tension between what Jojo says and what he does, right? And it all comes to a head in this really vividly described dice game. You can practically feel the high stakes, the tense atmosphere, the sense that something is about to go wrong.
Absolutely. And despite warnings from another miner, Jose, Papillon gets caught up in the game, drawn in by Jojo's energy and the allure of quick riches.
Yeah.
This scene is crucial because it highlights Papillon's struggle to resist temptation.
It doesn't end well, does it?
No, it doesn't. It quickly spirals out of control. There's a robbery, a struggle, and ultimately, Jojo's recklessness leads to his death. Papillon, though he displays, incredible quick thinking to escape the situation, he's left deeply shaken by the experience,
Yeah.
haunted by Jojo's death. A stark reminder of the fragility of life and the consequences of choosing the wrong path. He even says no one should ever think he's brighter than the rest because one day he'll find a man who moves faster than him.
I can only imagine. This brush with danger seems to like push him back toward that desire for stability, sending him back to that bustling city of Caracas, a place that totally assaults his senses after years of confinement. It's quite a contrast to, that quiet life he'd glimpsed with Big Charlotte.
And Caracas represents a different kind of temptation for Papillon.
Oh, how so?
Well, it's a world of opportunity, but also a world of anonymity. He's reunited with Maria and her nephew, Piccolino,
Okay.
but he struggles to find legitimate work. The reality of reintegration hits him hard. It's not easy to escape the label of ex-convict.
Right.
And this frustration, compounded by Piccolino's failing health and the struggle to find him proper medical care, well, it starts to push Papillon back towards that familiar world of risky ventures.
So this is where the famous Banco heist comes in, right?
That's right.
It's like, despite his desire for a peaceful life, he can't escape the pull of the underworld. We see him revert back to his old ways, meticulously planning and assembling a team to pull off this daring bank robbery.
It's almost like a relapse, isn't it?
Yeah.
The way he throws himself into planning the Banco heist, it's fascinating. It's methodical, detailed, almost like an engineering project. He brings in new accomplices, Gaston, Paulo, and Auguste. And they even have, get this, they even have a champagne celebration when they finally reach the bank's foundation after months of digging.
Oh, wow. A champagne celebration.
It's an interesting detail, isn't it? It highlights this, I don't know, almost perverse joy they find in their criminal enterprise.
I see what you mean.
But just when everything seems to be falling into place, fate intervenes.
Uh-oh.
A tunnel collapse, mere days before the planned heist. It brings their elaborate plan crashing down.
Oh, man. What a setback.
But instead of despair, Papillon seems to accept this turn of events philosophically. He recognizes that sometimes things are simply beyond our control. His focus shifts back to the personal bill he feels he needs to settle, the score he needs to even out with those who wronged him in the past.
So even though the Bunko heist fails, it reinforces his desire for a different kind of justice.
Yeah.
A personal reckoning with his past.
And that's when we get to one of the most intriguing parts of the story. In an unbelievable twist, Papillon encounters a woman who perfectly matches a recurring figure from his prison dreams.
Hold on. He's been dreaming about this woman for years while imprisoned on Devil's Island and then just runs into her in Caracas.
I know, it sounds far-fetched, right? But that's the beauty of Banco.
Yeah.
It blends harsh realism with these, almost fantastical elements. This woman, Rita, she becomes a major force in Papillon's life, drawing him into a new chapter of his Venezuelan journey. And that's where we'll pick up in part 2 of our deep dive.
Last we left off, Papillon had encountered a woman straight out of his dreams.
Yeah.
Rita.
Riga.
It seems almost too good to be true, doesn't it? This chance meeting leads them to Maracaibo,
Right.
a town that, well, plays a huge role in this next chapter of Papillon's life.
Maracaibo is almost like a character itself in Banco. Wouldn't you say? It's vibrant, full of life, and fiercely independent from the capital, Caracas.
Okay.
This independent spirit really resonates with Papillon, who has always been an outsider himself.
Yeah.
And it's here that he and Rita decide to buy the Hotel Veracruz,
Oh, wow.
a decision that I think signals a desire for stability and a more conventional life.
You'd think running a hotel would be a far cry from planning daring heists, right?
Right.
But even in this seemingly mundane setting, Papillon's adventurous spirit finds a way to shine through.
Absolutely. From navigating local customs to dealing with eccentric guests, running the Hotel Veracruz presents its own unique set of challenges.
Yeah.
But Papillon, he seems to embrace it all, finding humor and a sense of community in this new chapter of his life.
And there's some truly hilarious anecdotes about their time running the hotel. Like the story about the talking table.
Ah, yes, the infamous talking table.
Oh.
Imagine this. A heavy antique table in the hotel, it suddenly starts rapping in the middle of the night,
What?
terrifying the guests. Sounds like something straight out of a ghost story, wouldn't you say?
Totally.
But instead of some, supernatural explanation, it turns out to be a prank orchestrated by friends of Rita's deceased husband.
Oh, wow.
This blend of superstition and lightheartedness speaks volumes about the unique character of Maracaibo.
It's such a great anecdote because it shows a different side of Papillon. He's not just, a hardened criminal or a cunning schemer.
Right.
He's able to appreciate the humor and absurdity of everyday life.
Exactly. It shows his, growing attachment to this community, his willingness to let go of the past and embrace the present. And then there's the story of their poodle, Minu. This Meticulously groomed poodle, complete with a fez-shaped haircut and a Chaplin mustache, it becomes a local sensation.
A celebrity poodle. Only Papillon could have a poodle that becomes a town celebrity.
It's almost unbelievable, right? People are so captivated by Minou that they even, forget to follow a religious procession,
Oh, no.
much to the dismay of the church. This anecdote, while humorous, also underscores the warmth and vibrancy of the community. They're not afraid to embrace the unusual, to find joy in the simple things.
These stories, they paint a picture of a relatively peaceful and happy existence. But knowing Papillon's past and, the political climate of Venezuela at the time, I imagine things weren't always so tranquil.
You're right. While Papillon finds contentment in Maracaibo, the country is undergoing a period of intense political turmoil. There are attempted coups, a dictatorship on the rise, and a growing suppression of freedom of speech. It's a volatile and dangerous time.
And Papillon, being who he is, doesn't shy away from getting involved. He and Rita even use the Hotel Vera Cruz as a refuge for those being persecuted by the regime. It's a risky move, putting themselves in danger to protect others.
They could have easily turned a blind eye, focusing solely on their own well-being.
Right.
But their experiences as outsiders, as people who have faced injustice and persecution, it seems to fuel their sense of compassion and loyalty. It's as if they feel compelled to pay forward the kindness they received when they first arrived in Venezuela.
It's a powerful testament to the impact those early acts of generosity had on Papillon. It seems as though this community has brought out a sense of social responsibility in him,
Right.
a desire to fight for what's right.
It's a remarkable transformation, would you say? But just as things are, heating up politically, Papillon's personal life takes a dramatic turn.
Uh-oh.
After 20 years of silence, he receives a letter that changes everything.
This is the letter from his family, right?
Yes.
After all those years of separation and shame, he finally reconnects with his loved ones.
Imagine the emotional weight of those letters. His sisters, his stepmother, Tante Ju, they all reach out to him, bridging the gap that prison and time had created.
It must felt like a huge burden had been lifted, knowing he wasn't forgotten, that his family still thought of him.
And there's something else revealed in those letters that has a profound impact on Papillon.
What's that?
His stepmother shares that his father, despite everything, always believed in his innocence.
Wow.
He would often speak of Papillon, even imagining him fighting alongside the resistance during World War II. Imagine hearing that after years of believing you were disowned and forgotten.
That's incredible. To know that his father never gave up on him, even in the face of public condemnation.
This revelation has it has a transformative effect on Papillon. It's not just the joy of reconnection, but the validation he desperately needed. It fuels a desire for a truly reformed life, a life worthy of the love and belief that his father never relinquished.
It's like his father's love, even from beyond the grave, becomes a guiding force in his life, pushing him towards a path of redemption.
Exactly. This reconnection with his family, and particularly the revelation of his father's unwavering belief, it marks a turning point in Papillon's journey. It sets him on a course towards finding genuine peace and a sense of closure with his past.
So after all the adventures, the highs and lows, the triumphs and setbacks, it seems like Papillon has finally found peace in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Or has he? I have a feeling there are more twists and turns to come.
You're right to be suspicious. Life rarely offers, straightforward happy endings, especially for someone like Papillon.
Right.
He faces more challenges, grapples with difficult choices, and even considers returning to his old ways.
Yeah.
But those seeds of change have been planted, and he's determined to build a life worthy of the second chance he's been given.
That's the perfect segue into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the last chapter of Papillon's Venezuelan adventure and his ultimate decision about his future.
Stay tuned.
So we left off with Papillon, seemingly settled in Maracaibo, reconnected with his family, and seemingly at peace. But, a quiet life, it doesn't really seem to fit his character. Is that where his story ends?
It would be quite a departure from the Papillon we've come to know, wouldn't it? And you're right, he doesn't exactly settle into a life of leisure. In fact, he tries his hand at various ventures, always with that entrepreneurial spirit. One particularly audacious scheme involves airlifting crayfish from remote islands to sell in Caracas.
He's airlifting crayfish. That's not exactly the low-key life I would have pictured for him.
It speaks to his relentless energy, his constant need to be on the move, to be pushing boundaries. This time, though, it's not just about the money or the thrill of the risk. There's a sense of playfulness to it, a lightness that we haven't really seen before. He even jokes about barely clearing the rooftops on those flights back to Caracas.
So he's found a way to channel that adventurous spirit into something more legitimate? Maybe.
I think it's more about finding a balance, wouldn't you say? He's still drawn to the edge, but he's also learning to appreciate the simpler things in life. The crayfish venture is a perfect example of that. It's a risky, outlandish idea, but he approaches it with a sense of humor and joy.
But all this is happening against the backdrop of increasing political tension in Venezuela. The dictatorship is tightening its grip, and I imagine it becomes increasingly difficult for Papillon and Rita to stay neutral.
You're right. They continue to offer refuge to those persecuted by the regime. But the stakes keep getting higher. There's a particularly chilling episode where Papillon is falsely accused of being involved in a jewel robbery. He's arrested and tortured by the secret police. A stark reminder that the past can still come back to haunt you.
It's a brutal wake-up call, showing that even in this newfound paradise, he's not completely safe.
Exactly. This experience forces him to confront the fragility of his freedom and to reevaluate his priorities. He realizes that the life he's built with Rita is precious, but it's also vulnerable.
And it's around this time that he starts to seriously consider returning to France, right? It seems like a risky move, considering he's still a wanted man there. What drives him to make that decision?
I think it's a combination of factors. There's the ever-present desire for revenge, that Bill he mentioned earlier, the need to confront those who wronged him, but it's also a deeper longing to reconnect with his roots, to see his family again, to walk the streets of his childhood.
So it's not just about settling scores. It's about reclaiming a part of himself that was stolen from him all those years ago.
Precisely. It's a journey of self-discovery, of facing his past head-on instead of running from it. And by returning to France, he's taking control of his own narrative. He's no longer defined by the label of escaped convict.
But before he embarks on this journey, there's a rather symbolic event that takes place. He receives Venezuelan citizenship.
It's a poignant moment, isn't it? Here he is, on the verge of leaving this country that embraced him, offered him a second chance, and he's granted this official recognition of belonging. It highlights the complexity of his decision. He's leaving behind a place where he found acceptance and peace, to return to a place where he was condemned and unjustly imprisoned.
And when he returns to France, he doesn't shy away from the past. He goes straight back to Montmartre, the heart of his old life, and revisits all those places that hold so many memories, both good and bad.
He even stands at the very spot where he was falsely accused of murder, challenging those silent witnesses to speak out, to acknowledge the injustice that was done to him. It's a powerful act of defiance, a refusal to let the past bury him.
It sounds like he's finally confronting those demons that have haunted him for so long. But does he actually get his revenge? Does he settle that bill?
He tracks down some of the people involved in his wrongful conviction, but in the end, he chooses not to act. He realizes that true peace doesn't lie in vengeance, but in letting go of the anger and bitterness that have consumed him for so many years.
It's a powerful message of forgiveness, isn't it? It's not about condoning what happened, but about choosing to break free from the cycle of pain and resentment.
Exactly. He recognizes that clinging to the past only perpetuates his suffering. True freedom comes from accepting what happened, acknowledging the pain, and choosing to move forward.
So what happens to Papillon after he returns to France? Does he finally find that peace he's been searching for?
The book leaves that somewhat open-ended. He hints at further adventures, but it's clear that his time in Venezuela has fundamentally changed him. He's no longer the reckless young man who sought escape in crime and danger. He's experienced love, loss, and the profound strength of family. He's found a sense of belonging in the most unexpected of places.
So what does this all mean for us, the listeners? What can we take away from Papillon's incredible journey in Banco?
I think it challenges us to examine our own relationship with the past and how it shapes our present. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there's always the possibility of redemption, of second chances, and of finding light in the most unexpected places.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Banco. I don't know about you, but I'm left with a lot to think about. If you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out the book to experience Papillon's full journey for yourself. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.